Greetings. Hey, Jasmine. Thank you for joining, dear. How are you? Just waiting for folks to get on as well as our guests to join. And so to give a few moments, if you want to invite some folks, share the video. This is going to be very important, important topic that we are discussing this evening. So please share the video. Welcome. Welcome, Cassandra. Thank you for joining. Okay, I'm waiting for the notification. Did you get a notification to join, Karen? Okay. It's not showing up yet. Give it a few minutes. So I definitely sent it through. And you're on your phone, right? Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for joining. Okay. Just waiting for the notification. Good evening, Val. Thank you for joining. All right, just waiting for our guests to join us. Yeah, the only way you can do that is if I jump off. Let me see what's going on here. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on for a second. Just waiting for more people to join as well. Please share the video out. Invite friends. Invite anybody that you think can benefit from hearing this information. Share the video. While we're waiting for our guests to get on, I'm going to invite some more folks. Says it's adding. Sometimes Facebook is temperamental. Oh, it says no answer from the live video guest. Not sure why it's not adding. Okay, hold on. Be patient, everyone. Oh, what happened? Karen, I'm trying it one more time. Okay, we're just waiting for the, some reason she's not able to come on. I hope everyone's having a great Monday evening. I know Mondays are usually tough, so hopefully it wasn't too stressful. Yes. Hey, Yvette, thank you for joining. Just trying to get the guest on. It's being a little temperamental. Yeah, rotate your phone. That means horizontal. So you'll be in alignment with me. So it's horizontal, not vertical. Okay. Yeah. Hold on, everyone. Hey, Marcy, thank you for joining. Just having a little bit of a delay trying to get our guest on. Okay. She said 1 moment. She's here, just not on screen yet. So sit tight, everyone. Thank you for joining, Jamie. Trying to get Karen on. I think it's something with the way her phone is positioned. Meanwhile, you can invite folks. I want to believe we're going to get her on soon. Delay is never denial. All right, I'm going to keep inviting folks until... Hey, Sanji. Hey, Asa Marie. Thank you for joining. Southampton family in the house. Yeah, I'm trying to get Karen on. For some reason, so she's having a little bit of a challenge. Hi, Lori. Thank you for joining. One of my dope chick sisters. We just bear with us for a little bit, trying to get the guest on. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna try to bring you on again, Karen. All right. Says adding. Yeah, it says adding. Hopefully you got the notification. Ah, there we are.
Finally.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you, beautiful?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Okay, I see you well. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I feel like I'm super close.
You're good.
Okay.
See that face? Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, welcome everyone to Real Conversations with Real Souls. I tell you, I'm a little distracted by how this Facebook has the comment set up now, because it's like in front of my face.
Right.
So it's a little weird, right?
I'll help you read it. I see it on your face too.
Right, I know. I'm like, hey. So anyway, I'm gonna try not to pay attention to that, and I usually have my other device so that I can see the comments.
Right.
So everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you for your patience while we, work through our little technical stuff. But we have our wonderful guest here, Karen Miller, and I'm so excited to have her because we are going to talk about this very important topic of, just living with a chronic illness, like lupus. And Karen is going to be so graceful to share her story and her journey with living with lupus, but also how she turned, something that could be very challenging, and she's going to share all of that with you, into, being passionate and being an advocate for lupus and for the Lupus Foundation. So I want to read her bio, but I just want to go over a couple of things real quick. So if you have questions for Karen, please, by all means, type them in the comments. And like I said, I will be, looking and checking so I can make sure I don't miss any. Hopefully I don't miss too many comments. And Karen, I'm not sure you can see some of them. So just in case. Okay. All right. So we're going to get right to it. Let me just, Karen, if you want to invite other people, if you want to share it out, please share this video. Again, we're talking about a very important topic. A lot of women are suffering and living with lupus, and they just need information, and her story is going to be so amazing. I definitely wanted to be able to touch as many lives as possible, so this is why we're here. Okay. Hey, Jenny, thank you for joining. So first of all, I'm Phoenix Love of a Healer's Haven, where I help individuals, businesses, organizations to reveal, heal, and achieve their wellness goals so they can live on purpose. Again, I want to thank you for joining us this evening for Real Conversations with Real Souls with our special guest this evening, Karen Miller. Let me just tell you a little bit about this amazing, beautiful soul that we have here this evening. Karen Miller is a proud community lupus ambassador for the Lupus Foundation of America. Karen was officially diagnosed with lupus in 2011 and learned how important it is to become her own advocate and to be educated about lupus. In the summer of 2016, doctors told Karen she needed to take a disability leave from work to focus on her health complications due to lupus. Prior to that, she was a senior executive assistant in the financial industry. Karen graduated with honors from Southampton College of Long Island University, my alma mater. This is where I know from, with a bachelor's degree in communications, radio, and TV. Karen resides in Queens, New York, and is the proud mother of Nyla. Am I saying her name correctly? Nyla Barnes. Her daughter is a huge inspiration for her fight with lupus. Karen continues to coach basketball at the CYO program of MNSA. I guess you'll tell us what all those acronyms mean. In Flushing, New York, and with the Positive Direction basketball program in Rosedale, New York. Karen refuses to give up her fight with lupus because quitting is not an option. I love it. That's that champion living that I'm talking about. She is a passionate lupus awareness advocate and dedicated coach and mother. And yes, we are so blessed to have Karen this evening. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I do want to just share her, if you know, she'll talk about how to follow her and where you can learn more about her on social media, but you'll also see such a beautiful display of her daughter, who is a model, and she's doing some amazing groundbreaking things on her own, Miss Nyla Barnes. I just wanted to share that. So I tell you, the apple don't fall far.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, Teresa, thank you for joining, sweetheart. Okay, so we're going to get right started. My first question, again, you know, everyone that's watching, if you're catching this on a replay, just put in hashtag replay. But those of you who are here with us live, please put your questions in the comments. I will be periodically checking back and forth so that, you know, we can make sure that your questions are in comments are addressed. Okay. So, Karen, my first question, just to kind of get us started, is let's tell people just a little bit about lupus, because some people know about it. They, you know people that may have it, but tell us about lupus. What is lupus, and what does that look like as far as living with lupus on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that you may have heard more about it in the news. For those that don't know about it, it is a disease that causes inflammation throughout the body, and it can attack any of your organs at any given time, whether it's your brain, your skin, your lungs, your heart, your kidneys. And some of the people that you may have heard about in the news and in the media that have lupus are Selena Gomez. She recently came out that she has lupus. Nick Cannon has lupus. Toni Braxton has been living with lupus for quite some time. Snoop Dogg's daughter has lupus. So there's quite a number of people. Seal also has lupus. He has a form of lupus called discoid lupus, which is what causes the marks on his face. So there's various different types of lupus. And everyone's lupus is different. So no two cases are the same, which is what makes it more difficult to diagnose and also difficult to treat. So the way lupus affects me would be different than the way it affects Toni Braxton, or the way it affects, some of my other fellow lupus ambassadors in the program. So it's very complex, and that's why they call it the mystery disease, because they don't understand what actually causes it, and there's absolutely no cure for it right now, and the treatments are very limited.
Okay. And it's also just because, and I know I invited my mom, I hope she comes on, but my mom has a rare condition that they thought she had lupus in the beginning, talking about 20 years ago. Right. She was diagnosed with a rare condition that only about 1 or 2% people have it in the world, called polyarteritis nodosa. So it is also autoimmune disease that actually attacks the organs as well. So it's very similar. It's like in the same category, a rheumatologist. So one thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted you to clarify, is it also often misdiagnosed?
It is misdiagnosed, and it's also underdiagnosed, because the problem with lupus is that there are a lot of people who don't just have lupus. They have other overlapping autoimmune diseases. So there's Sjogren's syndrome, there's Raynaud's, There's all of these other types of autoimmune diseases that unfortunately, when you have lupus, you don't just have one. It brings along a bunch of friends, which are no fun either. And recently, a panel discussion, what the rheumatologist said is that if they can figure out how to cure lupus, it will unlock the key to curing all of the other autoimmune diseases.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're all very closely related.
Right. And have a lot of, if I'm hearing you correctly, like I just mentioned with my mom's condition, there's a lot of similar, symptoms.
Yes, there are.
The
The symptoms are very similar with a lot of the autoimmune diseases. So Sjogren's syndrome is actually the autoimmune disease that was first diagnosed. Some people may have heard that Venus Williams, when she had to pull out of the U.S. Open a number of years ago, was diagnosed with Sjogren's syndrome. And that is also an autoimmune disease very similar to lupus, and it attacks your moisture glands in your mouth, your saliva, your joints, and it causes widespread body pain, dryness in your eyes. But it's very similar to lupus. So you'll hear a lot of people that they were originally diagnosed with Sjogren's, fibromyalgia, Raynaud's, all these different types of autoimmune diseases. And sometimes they figure out that it is lupus, or it's lupus that may have triggered these other autoimmune diseases to basically flare up.
Right. So talk a little bit about the flare-ups and just what that looks like, because again, some of this, like I said, I'm familiar with, and then what is usually like the course of treatment when you have like the flare-ups and just even the symptoms, like what are usually the symptoms that you see? Right.
So what's challenging with diagnosing lupus is, unfortunately, a lot of doctors are not really trained and they're not looking for lupus. They're usually looking to treat, you have an issue going on with your kidneys, you have something going on with your heart, you have a rash on your skin, you have a lesion outbreak. It could be a variety of different things. And they're not diagnosing it as lupus, which is why those of us living with lupus are trying to spread awareness, not just to people who have lupus, but also to people who are family members with lupus. The doctors, we need to educate the doctors as well to tell them how we're feeling and bring this up. Can you test me for lupus? Is this a possibility? So as I said, everyone's diagnosis is different, and how they go about finding out that they have lupus is different. For me, I didn't know that I had lupus. Most people don't know that they have lupus. I went on a vacation. My girlfriend got married in Jamaica, destination wedding. And when I was there, I was in the sun. You're in the Caribbean, you're in the sun. I did get sunburn. I came back and I had what I then learned later were lesions on my legs. But the sun often affects people with lupus. So that caused the outbreak. I went to work like regular. I thought it was mosquito bites or, some type of a reaction. And my coworkers at that time were actually the ones that convinced me to go and get checked out at the medical office that we had at the office. And immediately when I saw the what I thought were the bites on my legs, they said, this is definitely not just bites. They sent me to a dermatologist who immediately said, this is Sjogren's syndrome. We have to get you checked for sarcoidosis. The only time I had heard about sarcoidosis was on House. Everyone diagnosed with sarcoidosis on House died. So I'm like, what is this? I thought I had mosquito bites on my leg. So I went to the dermatologist. She diagnosed me Sjogren's. They sent me to the rheumatologist, and she said, we'd have to watch you for lupus. At that time, I didn't know much about lupus, but I did know one person who had lupus, and I reached out to her to find out, hey, they think I might have lupus. My rheumatologist told me to educate myself about the disease. So I did that. And they actually told me I needed to be on bed rest in order for the lesions on my legs to clear up. And they put me on very strong medication. Once I started to research about lupus and reading about the signs and symptoms, I had to reflect back and realize that a lot of these signs and symptoms I had a very long time ago. I never really paid much attention. As a mother, if your child is sick, you run to the doctor first thing to get them checked out. When you're sick or you're not feeling too well, you're like, oh, maybe I need extra rest. Maybe I need to eat better.
Right.
Excuses, exactly. And that's a bad thing. And that's something that I can honestly confess and say, just chalk things up and say, oh, it's nothing. But it was lupus. Um, and I wasn't surprised because, like I said, originally I was diagnosed with Sjogren's, and she told me to educate myself about Sjogren's, about lupus, and I was pretty much ready for it. And you'll hear a lot of people tell their story, and it's like devastating news for them. For me, I wasn't devastated. I went back to my rheumatologist. She ran blood work, she did labs, and she looked at my face. I went into the office, and she said, why are your cheeks red? And I knew that was one of the signs that they diagnose people with lupus. It's called a butterfly rash. Often it happens in times of flares, or if you're in the sun too much. It comes whenever it feels like it. And the cheeks and over the nose turn red. And this doesn't happen with everyone, but it's why you'll see butterflies associated with lupus. So when she saw that, she said, where did this come from? I said, I've actually always had this, pretty much all my life. It comes and goes. So she, broke the news to me, you have lupus. But again, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't devastated. Again, mommy mode, my first instinct was, I need to make sure that my daughter doesn't have lupus. I can deal with whatever comes with this disease, but it's my daughter that I'm concerned about. So took her to the rheumatologist, went through all these tests. I was more stressed about her than myself. Thankfully, she did not test positive for lupus. But clearly lupus can flare at any time.
Okay. Wow. I just want to jump because I saw a couple of comments. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone and welcome some people because people have been jumping on.
Yes. See them.
So welcome. Oh, hey Chantel, thank you for joining. Eric, Monique, Markrina, Cassandra, Vanessa, thank you for joining. Tanya said, great job, Karen.
Thank you, Tanya.
Markrina can be shared outside of the group. Yes, you can share it, Markrina. You can share it.
The share button is right down by where you write the
right there at the bottom. Nay, thank you for joining. She says, how I don't see a share button. Markrina, go in on my page and you can share it from my page. Come out of the group.
And then come back in.
Yes. She doesn't have to come back. She can stay out of the group, but she's on both.
Okay.
Yeah, you should. Sanji said there is a share button. Thank you, Sanji. All right, so let's keep going because I have so many questions. If you have questions for Karen, please put them in the comments and I will make sure that I ask them, okay? So you mentioned the word flare a few times. Can you just talk about what a flare is, what it looks like, and
Sure.
What do you do when you're in a flare? What does that look like? And then again, like, what is the treatment and just a little bit more information.
Okay. So flares look different for every person in a different way. For some people, it might be the skin involvement, like the butterfly rash may show up. It may be that you're feeling chronically fatigued. It may be that you're having pain in your kidneys. You can be having chest pains. There's so many different ways that flares happen. And it's a little misleading because you go for blood work, you go for lab work, and your lab work may look fine, but you're not feeling fine. It also may be that your lab work is out of whack and you're feeling okay. So for every person, it's different. For me, I can say the most frustrating part is the chronic fatigue that I deal with. And most people you'll hear deal with lupus that way. With the chronic fatigue, very frustrating. Unfortunately, the treatments are pretty limited and they're not specifically for lupus. There's actually only one drug since lupus has been researched that has been approved for the treatment of lupus, and it's not a cure, and there's a lot of side effects for it. So you hear a lot of people saying that they're on Plaquenil, which is an anti-malaria medication. You'll hear that a lot of people are on prednisone, which is steroids. You'll also hear people taking Celsep when they have kidney involvement. You'll hear them taking methotrexate and other forms of chemotherapy to help suppress the immune system. So these medications in itself are not going to just magically clear up your flares. They
Right.
may help you kind of get over the hump a little bit, but there's side effects in itself for those types of medications. For me, my body does not respond very well to the meds. And
Okay.
unfortunately, what you'll see is a lot of lupus warriors, as I like to call them, they start by taking one medication and it affects another organ, or it may make you feel really sick.
Side effects.
So,
Right.
yeah, the side effects. So, originally, when I was diagnosed with Sjogren's, I was put on a potassium iodide medication. And I took it because I wanted to go back to work. I wanted the lesions to be gone and I wanted to feel better. But the side effects from that was it elevated my thyroid levels, which then my
Mm.
doctor put me on thyroid medication. And I'm not a person that likes to take medication. I don't think anyone really does, but I really, really don't like taking medication. And so I started to do my research and I realized that the medication that I was taking was something that was causing my thyroid levels to be off. So because I started educating myself, I spoke up and talked to my doctor and said, listen, I know thyroid disease runs in my family. However, I've never had any issues with my thyroid. I believe it's the medication. She disagreed. She didn't think that it was a good idea for me to stop taking the medication, but I told her, let's try it. I'd like to wean myself off and we'll run the blood work again and then see what happens. And that's what it was. And I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but I really feel it's really important to pay attention and to be in tune with your body, because I'll confess, I wasn't in tune with my body. And as I start to be more in tune, like I know, okay, I'm feeling more tired. I'm not gonna disregard, oh, I think that I just have gas, when it's something that could be serious, like serious chest pains. Um,
Right.
I know I saw a question pop up about what type of doctor you see when you have lupus.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah,
few questions. Hold
yeah.
on for a second. So Asa Marie asked, if you think you have lupus, what's the best way to get your doctor to test for it or even take you seriously if they're not looking for it?
So there's not one definitive test. There's a host of different blood works and labs that they will run. But a rheumatologist is the doctor that treats people that have lupus and autoimmune conditions. A lot of
Right.
people also have rheumatoid arthritis with their lupus. They have kidney involvement. Um, so it's the rheumatologist is who you start with. Unfortunately, that's not the only doctor we end up seeing. In my case, I have a cardiologist because I have a leaky valve in my heart. I have seen a hematologist because I also have a blood clotting disorder, antiphospholipid syndrome, which a lot of people with lupus has, which puts you at a higher risk of developing blood clots. So that needs to be monitored. I had the dermatologist because I had the skin outbreak. I have a neurologist because a lot of people with lupus have brain involvement and migraines,
Yeah.
dizziness, vertigo. You know, like I said, it can affect every organ, your brain, your heart, your liver, your lungs. So it's really important to follow with these doctors, which leads me into something that I definitely don't want to leave out: healthcare. The cost
Okay.
of being sick and having to see all of these specialists, dealing with the insurance companies and getting approvals for these tests. Lupus is a disease that affects primarily women of color. And
That's right.
unfortunately, the clinical trials don't get a lot of women of color
Fund.
participating. And it's
Okay.
something that was discussed, and it's being discussed more often with the LFA, also with the Lupus Summit. I was recently in DC last month, and it's something that we're talking about because we need to understand, why aren't we participating in these clinical trials? And I'm very passionate about finding out why and, you know, discussing it. We have a history of mistrust with the healthcare system,
And when you
the
say we,
government.
you mean women of color are
Yes,
not participating in the clinical
yes,
trials.
yes.
Are we aware? Is there like a big awareness out there specifically for women of color
So
to know?
there is a
Right.
push for more women of color to be involved, to be community ambassadors, to speak to people, because we have a tendency, and this is not all of us, but just in general, of being Superwoman, being Wonder Woman, hiding what we have going on, not talking about it, being embarrassed. And it's nothing that we need to be embarrassed about. No one asks to be sick or to have lupus. It is something that we need to discuss, and we need to, step up, find out about the clinical trials, ask questions, discuss these things with our doctors, and discuss these things with our community. Lupus is often seen as a disease where, oh, you're just tired, just take a nap, you're going to feel better. I can sleep for 14 hours straight, and when I wake up, I'm still sleepy. I'm still tired. So that's not a cure for it. And we also need to realize lupus is a disease that is killing people. Just last month, a lupus warrior that I was friends with, and she wanted to start a podcast. She would have been 29 years old, and she had lung involvement, and she died from lupus. There's people that I see on my timeline that are dying every day. And this is an issue that really needs to be addressed. It's not a disease that can be taken lightly. There are even studies that are showing that people with lupus are at a higher risk of developing cancers. So it's something that needs attention, it needs funding, it needs awareness. And this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I know people who have been directly affected by lupus. A friend of mine that I went to high school with, her brother died from lupus. Although you don't hear lupus in men very often, men do get lupus. 10% of the people with lupus are men. And for men, sometimes it's even more challenging for them, because they're like, why do I have a disease that's supposed to be for women of color? But they need support and they need awareness too. And it's something that we need to discuss and bring to the forefront.
Excellent. Okay, let me get to this, because there's so many messages that are scrolling up, because you've touched on so many important points, but I don't want to miss anything. Yeah. So A. Marie says, if you think you have lupus, okay, we asked that already. Okay, she said, been going through the last 4 years of chronic fatigue, hair loss, and GI issues, but always good lab work. She says she was tested for lupus as a child, but was not diagnosed for the same mystery symptoms. So we talked about that a little bit earlier, about how it undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and this is part of the challenge. This is why, like you said, the awareness is so important. Tanya says, okay, she says, absolutely correct. I'm in a flare now. So she's just, again, talking about the flares. Ace Marie mentions about being woman of color. Seems like we have to save the world and save ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
True. Thank you, Lisa, for joining. We had a couple other people jump on. Tanya mentioned that also the eye doctor is very, very important as well.
Especially on Plaquenil. When you're on Plaquenil, the major side effect is that it can cause toxicity in your eye. So it's very important to get regular checkups with your eyes. Most people, as a baseline that have lupus, are on a medication called Plaquenil. But that medication is specifically for malaria. It's an anti-malaria medication. So this is what I mean, that the medications that are being used to treat lupus are not directly for lupus. They're just finding that these medications may help with the flares that we are experiencing. But again, it doesn't cure the lupus. It doesn't have it go away. It's just to help treat those symptoms at that time.
Okay. So it's just treating the symptoms. Is it more like targeting the symptoms to make you feel more comfortable, not necessarily a cure?
Yes, exactly. So just like with cancer, you go for chemotherapy, you either go for surgery and remove the cancer. With lupus, we unfortunately can't remove it. And that is unfortunately done to our bodies is not reversible. So it's something that we have to deal with. Like, my leaky valve is not going to repair itself. The neurological symptoms that I get on a daily basis, the medications that I would take are not going to make them go away, But like cancer, lupus can go into remission. There's a misconception that you can be cured. Like there's a lot of diets out there that people suggest, or pray, or go vegan. Listen, I've done those things. Unfortunately, the lupus is still here.
Yeah.
I love to hear when lupus warriors are in remission, but it doesn't mean that you're out of the clear, that it's never going to come back. You're not going to have a flare at any given time. Today, I might feel great, which I don't, but today I might feel great. And then tomorrow, all of a sudden, I can't get out of bed, or the rain is coming, or the snow is coming, and my joint pain is extreme. And the medications that I have to treat those will debilitate me in the sense of I can't drive, I shouldn't go outside, I shouldn't make certain decisions. The tons of side effects that go along with a lot of the medication. So for me, again, like I said, I've had negative reactions to a lot of the medications. So I turned to physical therapy and acupuncture. And
Okay.
I find for me, that's the better route. And what I'd like to see is the doctors and organizations supporting a more holistic way of treating lupus, and understanding that medication is not for everyone and it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes the side effects from the medications are worse than actual symptoms that you're having.
Exactly.
So that's another thing that I'd like to, bring to the fore.
Exactly. Yes. And I'm glad you, Karen, brought up the holistic piece of it, because I believe I see a question. Marina is asking, are there alternative methods that assist in alleviating some of the pain symptoms associated, I'm just going to hit it there, with lupus? And you touched on acupuncture.
Yes.
And you mentioned one more.
Physical therapy.
And physical therapy.
Some of my fellow lupus warriors do yoga, they do meditation. There's different ways that they cope with the disease.
Okay. And that was one of my main questions. How do you cope with it? How do you cope with, because like you said, every day is different. And,
right.
I follow you. I see, you show, you share, just like we had Nashia on Friday, and she really walked us through her journey, the good days, the bad, the ugly days, and you have done the same thing. So what is your coping mechanism? How do you cope?
So for me, it's basketball. I love basketball.
I knew that.
That's one of my coping mechanisms.
Right.
Every day I'd like to not think about having lupus, but unfortunately I'm reminded, whether it's in the morning when I wake up and I brush my teeth and my wrist is hurting, my fingers are hurting, when it's opening up a jar, that's challenging. It could be that I'm driving and I feel it in my ankles, I feel it in my legs, back spasms. And so there's days I just want to forget it, that I don't have it. And I'll be totally honest with you. When my doctors told me that I needed to go on disability, that's when I broke down, because that was a blow to my pride and ego. And it's pretty sad that we define ourselves by our jobs and by our careers and think that it's the end all be all. But that was when I broke down and cried in both of their offices. Not when I was diagnosed, but when they said, you need to stop. And so I decided I don't want to just stay home and be depressed, because depression and mental health is a huge part of what a lot of my lupus warriors and myself deal with. So staying active and saying, I need to try to live the best life I can. And although I might not be able to do all of the things that I did before and to have the same career I did, because sitting too long, standing too long, and commuting 2 hours to work is challenging, I can still be active. Right. And I still have a purpose with my life. I'm more than lupus. I'm a mom. I'm a coach. I decided to become a lupus ambassador. I decided to advocate not just for myself, but for people who are not able to leave their beds, to leave the hospital for months on end because they're being treated by lupus for their lupus symptoms. And so that's how I cope with dealing with lupus. I refuse to give up. And don't get me wrong, there are days where I am so angry and I'm frustrated. When I developed a staph infection a couple of years ago, that was one of the most painful experiences. I've always prided myself on having a very high tolerance for pain, but that staph infection, and when I had to go and get those lesions drained, it was painful. But I drove myself home. I couldn't get out the car, so I had to have my daughter get the medication from me. And it was a humbling experience because I suffer from the superwoman, syndrome, and I don't like to ask for help. But I had to have her go in and get the medication for me. And I remember that day very vividly because my daughter was going to get her permit test, and I just couldn't do it. I physically couldn't take her, and that was heartbreaking to me. And so she went, she took the bus, and that made me cry because I felt that the lupus was winning that day, that this fight was not going to be easy. And I know there's going to affect me in ways, but I can't quit. I can't give up. And my daughter is thankfully a very strong-minded individual. So she's not ever saying, "Oh, mom, oh my gosh, she's gonna die. Oh, she can't do anything." I need to continue to fight for her. I need to continue to fight and show people that you can still have a life with lupus, even though it may look different than the life you thought that you were going to have. But we've got to fight. We cannot give up. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to talk to our senators, our congress people. We have to get the word out there and never give up. And that's why I always say that quitting is not an option. The coaching for me, I'll admit, when my doctors told me about going on disability, one of the first questions I asked about that is, will I still be able to coach? Because if they told me, no, you wouldn't be able to coach, I think I would still be going to work with the monitors hooked up to my head, the monitors hooked up to my heart, wearing a hat, hiding what was happening, but still fighting through it, because I felt me not working and me going on disability was me giving up, not knowing that that is not what defines me. I needed to not be working, to focus on doing these tests and trying to get better. And it's something that we don't talk about a lot. We don't like to talk about being on disability. When people say, "Oh, you meet new people," dating with lupus is a big subject. They want to know what you do. "Oh, I'm on disability." There's a stigma with being on disability that we have to fight against as well.
So my head is spinning. You have touched on so many different directions I could go, but I'm going to look to, because again, this is all about the awareness and getting the message out. Please, if you haven't already, share this video. My sister here is just dropping so many jewels of so much powerful information, and you see why she is an ambassador for lupus, for the Lupus Foundation, for the people who don't have a voice or who can't get out the bed, who are really suffering and struggling in silence with this disease. And you touched on the part of being a parent, of still having to function in this world, dealing with the fact of being on disability. And you said that's what really hit you in the heart. Not so much the diagnosis. Nope. Like, listen, I could deal with this. That's where your mental toughness come in, and you being an athlete and being a coach, and you just said, okay, I'm a champion. I'm gonna beat this. And you look at it. I love what you said. You look at it as an opponent.
Yes.
And it's like, this is a fight, but I'm going to win this fight.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's that mental toughness. That's that tenacity. That's that champion living. That's why I say champion living. You truly are showing what it means to transform something that could be and that is very painful, that could be devastating. Some people could just wipe them out. Like you say, you have lost friends to this.
Yes.
But I think a lot of it has to do with your level of resilience, your heart, and your faith, your ability to say, you know what, I'm going to win this. You're not going to defeat me. And looking at it as an opponent, and like you say, this is war, but I'm winning this every day. Some days you might smack me around, but I got this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I cannot thank the Lupus Foundation of America enough, our Northeast region in particular. They have been such a tremendous support. You know, I go to a lot of these events. I go, listen to these panel discussions. I make the efforts to do the walk and the fundraising. And the reason is because they really help. They really care. And being around other lupus warriors is extremely empowering. Children with lupus were at the lupus summit. You see young people. It's considered a young people's disease. People have had knee replacements at 24 years old. Um, so many different things, but it's empowering to have that support. And I have to tell you that the people who have walked with me through any of my lupus walks, that are supporting any of the events and the awareness that I do, just sharing, helps to keep me going. I have tremendous family and friends that are so supportive, and that's tremendous to me. I could not fight this fight alone. So I'm so very thankful for the LFA. I'm so very thankful for my great friends and my family members that are so supportive of what I do.
And the support factor, and we're going to segue because I want you to talk about all the wonderful things that you are involved in and what you have coming up with the Lupus Foundation and with spreading awareness. But I know there was a number of questions, and I apologize because, again, I can't see it on this screen. So I'm just going to go back a little bit because I don't want to miss any questions. Sharon, thank you for joining. I hope I'm saying your name right. Dejime, thank you for joining. Someone asked, Asa Marie, how does lupus affect fertility? That was one question.
So yeah, I saw that question, and I definitely wanted to address that. There are women that are able to have children, but honestly, there's a lot of doctors that will recommend against it. So my gynecologist told me once, I got diagnosed, you're not having any more kids, right? Like, because that's, you shouldn't do that. It's a risk because, recently a lupus warrior, she gave birth, and unfortunately she gave birth prematurely and the baby died. For me, I'm very thankful that I had my daughter when I did, because I don't know what complications I would have had now. And I know that there are a lot of my fellow lupus warriors who don't have children, and the medications that they are on will prevent them from being able to carry a child. So it's
Sure.
very serious. There's so many levels to it, and that's something that also takes a toll on a woman. She's 25, 30 years old. She's on medications, and they're saying you can't have any children. It's tough. It's something tough to have to deal with and to have to live with.
And this is where, again, you brought up before the mental health aspect of it. Psychologically having to process, not only just living with the day-to-day symptoms and having to get certain treatments and, it affecting all your different organs, but just the emotional aspect, the emotional toll that it takes on you. Like you said, getting news that you may not be able to have children and you're 20-something, 30-something years old, and this is something you really wanted, or you're not able to work anymore.
Exactly.
Or, battling depression just because you're in pain and you're dealing with all of this. You're not able to live the lifestyle that you intended to live.
Exactly. You have a lot of lupus, a lot of my lupus warriors, even just from the stress of lupus. Like, stress is something that triggers lupus tremendously. They tell you this all the time. A lot of you'll see a lot of lupus warriors who lose their hair as a result of the stress, but also as a result of some of the medications that they take. The bone density is compromised. You're seeing so many different doctors, and they're sending you in different directions because they need to check everything out. For me, I ended up seeing a hematologist who checked my iron levels and discussed all these different things. And he suggested I see a genetic doctor. It wasn't something that I thought about. I did genetic testing and found out that I tested positive for the BRCA2 breast cancer gene. And so the recommendation is for me to have a hysterectomy and a double mastectomy. And, again, I haven't done these surgeries yet because it's a huge decision to make. But these are things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And, the cost of having lupus is tremendous. We're talking about copays for doctor's visits. We're talking about medications. We're talking about, for me, I take a lot of vitamin supplements. I spend over $200 a month just on vitamin supplements.
And that's above and beyond healthcare?
Yes.
Any kind of insurance?
Yes. Yes. So it's extremely expensive. And it's something that we don't talk about. Again, we're dealing with pride. We're dealing with, we don't want to talk about how it affects our finance, how it affects our relationship, how it affects us mentally. It's a huge, huge burden. It really is. And it can definitely take you down mentally. Like I'm all about total honesty. There are days where I'm just like, I just want to go back to work. I just want to forget all of this. I'm not going to any more specialists, but there's something that reminds me. I know that something is off. I log on and I'm able to see my blood work and see where my levels are and know that I need to take action because I could possibly not be here tomorrow. We're at higher risk for having heart attacks, blood clots, strokes. It's very, very real. And so we do need to take charge. And I highly encourage, it's not for everyone. Like everyone maybe is not as open as I am about it, but I think speaking about it, being involved in the Lupus Foundation, becoming an ambassador, it's empowering. And that's what the LFA wants us to be. They want us to feel empowered. They want to provide that outreach for us while we're here. And obviously research is extremely important too, because how are we going to find cures if there's not research and funds raised for this, which is why I raised the funds for the walk, which is why I'm doing the fundraiser for lupus. It's something that I see where the money is going for. You have different organizations that people fundraise for, and there's plenty of fundraising for cancer. There's plenty of awareness for cancer. But I'd like to see lupus get this much.
Yeah, where is the cancer money going? Because I'll tell you, I feel like there's so many walks. I mean, I've participated on the behalf of both of my grandmothers, died very young of breast cancer.
Right.
Both I believe in their 40s.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Of course, I had my own little scare where, I thought back in 2009. So I participated in a number of breast cancer awareness walks and Avalon walk and this walk and that walk and long Manhattan.
Yes.
And I'm saying they've been doing these things for like 30 years. Where's the money? Everybody should be cured by now. So I know what you're saying. We know that there's certain diseases that get more attention, more awareness, more funding. And lupus, I think, just started coming along in the last, maybe 15, 20, years. No, 20-something years. Because I think it's around the time my mom was diagnosed. And they still, even in that beginning, you're talking about over 20 years ago, it was still, like you said, a mystery. And it's still, obviously, it sounds like it still is to some degree.
It is. It absolutely. A lot of people, you ask them, do you know what lupus is? I have no idea. No idea, totally. And, you touched on about cancer. Again, a lot of lupus warriors are at a higher risk of developing cancer. For me, again, I'm very open. You know this about me.
Please. Yes.
When I was diagnosed, I have a primary care doctor who is very, very detailed about everything. And so she wanted me to have a mammogram done. And I wasn't 40 yet, but she said she wanted me to have this done. We appealed it. We got it through. I have lymph nodes in both of my breasts that they are monitoring, which they say are it's because of the lupus, it's because of the Sjogren's, but they're saying it's not cancerous. So, to think that lupus is just an easy disease to deal with, or, and I've had people tell me this, but you don't look sick, but it's not cancer. It could be a lot worse. They have no idea the impact that lupus has on your life and how many different organs it affects. And it's very serious.
Right. And this is why, speaking about it and this awareness, that's why I wanted to have you come on, because I know for a fact that people, especially people of color, we don't know all of these things unless we're, they're doing like what you're doing, getting involved, part of the Lupus Foundation, being an ambassador, researching, and we don't even do that just on a basic day-to-day, just really finding out what's going on with us by just going to the doctor and staying on top of our health, anybody.
It's
for
true.
that factor.
I
Yeah.
recently went to a Black Health Matters summit in Harlem, and I went there to support a fellow lupus warrior who was here from Orlando, and she gave a presentation. She's actually on dialysis for her lupus, and traveled with her machine. You know, these are real things that happen to people with lupus. And there were doctors there, and there was a Black female doctor, and she was talking about cancer in the Black community. And again, sometimes we're not offered to even participate in the clinical trials because they don't feel that we will participate. And that's a problem. And they're bringing that to the forefront and saying, listen, it's not that we don't want to be cured. We need to be offered the clinical trials. We need to know about them. We need to go for our regular physical checkups, whether it's once a year. You know, our men need to get checked for colon cancer. You know, just health in general is so important. You know, we're focused on different things and we think that that's wealth. No, health is truly wealth. Without our health, we're not here. We can't accomplish anything.
Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, and I know I have no idea what time it is because this is such powerful information.
I have no idea.
And I know there's a bunch of, let me just go to the comments because I don't want to miss anybody. Yvette says we need more women of color in the medical field to build up the trust factor, just what you were talking about. Because the reality is we know there's this disparity in not only awareness, but funding, financially, you know, us being, like you said, participating in clinical trials in healthcare.
That's
like
right.
Even how we're treated when we go to hospitals and, you know, we're sick, an ambulance has to pick us up. Listen, we know this is real. The services, because again, I've dealt with a lot of this with my mom. So I know how it is. They treat you a certain way. And then, no, we're not, you know, brought to the forefront of, okay, here's a clinical trial that may help you or so forth, unless they specifically want the research on people of color.
That's right.
That's the only time it happens.
We, in order for us to make any progress, we have to discuss the disparities in the communities. Okay. And it's not that they're complaining and crying about it, but it's real. We see it. We know what it is. And so it's something that needs to be discussed. And then we move forward to the next step. Like, we don't just say, okay, yeah, we're just going to participate in these clinical trials when we know about the syphilis experiment. We know about the Tuskegee experiment. We have to build back up the trust with the doctors, the health professionals, you know. We have to talk about those things. We have to talk about mental health in our communities. We have to discuss these things and not be embarrassed and change the dynamics of how we deal with these things.
Exactly. And in all of the apathy, and because that's part of the problem. We can't complain if we are not speaking up and having a voice. So this is why the work you do, which I want to segue into exactly what you're doing as an ambassador, the walks, you know, talk a little bit about that and exactly what you have coming up. Because I know you have a number of events, how people can get involved, and really, because I'm hearing, and I see some of the comments. Someone asked about Congress, Kenneth Jarvis, I think it is. You know, what did Congress say? So, you know, we know that there's the legislative piece of this. Okay?
Yes,
we know there's funding and financial piece of this. Talk to us about what you're doing, what you have going on, how people can get involved so that we can start really spreading awareness and supporting the movement, you know, especially for women of color, to be more involved with these clinical trials and just awareness of lupus in general and just how we can better take care of ourselves.
Right. So last year was the first year that I attended the Lupus Summit in DC, and it's a 2-day summit. The first day, it's panel discussions about lupus and training to speak to the staff of the legislators, going in asking for specific funding. It's a very informative summit. It's very empowering, and you feel like you're really contributing to making a change. What I also have coming up is, of course, the lupus walk. I do about 3 lupus walks every year. The one that I have coming up is with the Lupus Foundation of America. It's on May 5th, which is a Saturday, down at the Seaport. I can definitely put my link on, join my team. If you can't join, you can donate. I know, some people get tired of hearing on the walks, oh, where's the money going? But it's very empowering. And again, it's important to support the people who are dealing with these diseases. As we mentioned, I'm a basketball coach, and I did not give that up, and I refuse to give that up. For a number of years, I've wanted to do a event that had to do with basketball and lupus. So I decided to do a basketball lupus fundraiser, which is taking place on Sunday, April 22nd, here in Queens. There's going to be 5 great competitive games. We're going to have a table with information about lupus. We're going to have giveaways, face painting for the kids. Just Excellent. A great day for a great cause. And, it's important to me. I love the support. And I'm really excited about it. There's other ideas that I have because my brain won't shut off, which is something I need to talk to you and see you about, because I definitely need better tips with meditation. Some of my fellow ambassadors have sip and paint lupus fundraisers.
Oh, I'll that. That's
nice. Yeah, I'll share that with you because I support my fellow ambassadors, so I think it's important that we do that. I have another ambassador. She has a Zumbathon coming up. There's a outing coming up. There's so many things and I always say this too, lupus is not fun, but lupus awareness can be fun. And it's a way to get the community out. And let me tell you, I've gone and spoken at a number of different community events, and you'll have people there, and at the end they'll say, oh, I have lupus, or I lost my mom to lupus, or my sister had lupus. I met someone at the Black Health Summit, and she and her 4 sisters all have lupus, and one of them passed away from it. So you never know who you're reaching and who you're touching. And so I do this with a passion from my heart, because I'm fighting for myself, but I'm fighting for others who don't really have a voice yet. And that's why, I'm always posting about it. I'm always trying to recruit people, just to get involved, just to help. This is something that impacts so many people. There's about 1.5 million people just in the US that they say have lupus. And I personally feel that number is way above, but there are people that don't have that stigma of having any type of disease, whether it's lupus, cancer, fibromyalgia, whatever it is. But this is the reality of it. And I do agree that the environment, the foods we eat, contribute to these diseases and these illnesses. But we've got to do something about it. It's an empowering feeling when you feel like you're trying to take charge of your life and you feel like you have purpose.
Yes.
So that's where I come from.
Well, listen, just full because it's so much. I feel like this needs to be a 2-part. Like I said, I have no idea. Somebody just type what time it is. I'm clueless to what time it is because this is so good, and I'm like, give us more. So you do have an event. I don't know if you mentioned it, but you have a gala or something you're speaking at, right?
Yes. Okay.
I was like, yes, this is why I wanted to move you up.
I thought I might be missing something. So yes, not this Friday, but next week Friday, I will be speaking at a lupus gala at Jericho Terrace. It's amazing. The organizer is a woman by the name of Dana Alvarez, and she decided to become a lupus ambassador because she knows, I want to say it's about 5 people that have been affected by lupus. And she decided to put together this gala to raise lupus awareness. And we met at a lupus ambassador event. And then she reached out and asked me to be the guest speaker there. And I was humbled,
Woo!
I'm excited. So that's coming up too. And I can definitely post the link to that too.
Yes, post a couple of people already post. Can you please post your events? Yes. Karen will post all of her events.
Absolutely.
And also let them know how can they find you? How can they follow you on social media?
Yes. So I am very active on Facebook. I'm very active on Instagram. On Facebook, I'm Karen Miller, but there's a lot of Karen Miller. So I'll post a little link or a screenshot of what my picture looks like. On Instagram, I am Karen Miller 97. I'll post that as well. I just want to help. I want to get people involved. I want people to know that you can help yourself and you can help others.
And you know that my last question for you was, what is your parting message for
Oh,
someone that may be, just in case you want to add on to what you just said, because I think that was powerful enough, but that may have lupus, or they're not sure, or they have some kind of chronic illness that they're struggling with. What would be your message to them?
I would say definitely speak up and advocate for yourself with your doctors. A lot of people are intimidated by doctors or people that they feel are in power, but you have to go into your doctor's appointment. We had a session about this with a list of your concerns. You don't go in there to your doctor and say, oh, I'm okay, or I'm not really sure how I feel. Take charge. Here's some symptoms that I have. I think it could be lupus, or I have lupus and it runs in my family, and I think it may be hereditary. Reach out to the lupus organization. It's lupus.org. They are extremely responsive. They will get back to you immediately and will link you up with resources and to, get help, to get support. So really what my parting message, I'd like to say, advocate for yourself.
Yes.
Be a champion for yourself. Be a warrior for yourself. Be a warrior for someone else. Spread awareness. Let's take care of ourselves and let's help take care of each other. Humanity is like going down the drain by the day, and I'd love to just see us help take care of ourselves and help take care of each other.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I'm just because there was some really powerful messages, but we're both gonna go through all of the comments
Yes, yes.
and acknowledge, and you can always respond if they had questions, because there was so many and they were coming so quickly.
Yes.
Marina says she can't hear. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I see it where she
Says
says she can't hear. Oh, she said never mind.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I just want to read Nadine. Tanya said quitting isn't an option. I tell myself every day we are twinning. Great job, Karen, because she was sharing, some of her things she's went through. Teresa, who also has lupus, she said, I have a loop recorder inserted for the last 3 years monitoring my heart. So she shared a lot of her things she's been through. Powerful sister as well. Mm-hmm. Nadine, I love what Nadine said. Thank you for joining, Nadine. She said, yes, sister, trust God through it all. God said in Isaiah 53:5, you're already healed in Jesus' name. Praying for you, and thank God for your spirit and champion attitude. You are a victor.
Thank you.
Love that. Yes, Nadine. Thank you. Val said, powerful. Thanks for sharing. You have given me a better understanding of lupus. You got it. It does not have you.
That's right.
Yeah. May said support is the key. Val said awareness is knowledge. Chia, am I saying her name right? Cia. Support is the best that you can have when dealing with lupus. And the comments just kept coming, just beautiful, supportive. And I just want to thank you. If you're just joining, please watch from the beginning. We're getting ready to wrap up. This was a powerful episode of Real Conversations with Real Souls, with this beautiful soul champion here for lupus and advocate, and just wonderful sister here, Karen Miller. You don't just watch it. Watch it all the way through from beginning to end. If you're catching it on the replay, put #replay. And like I said, if you have questions for Karen, you can hit up, on social media, or you can put your question in the comments. We'll both go back and check the comments. And I just want to remind everyone, again, you heard Karen said, you heard Nay said it. If you caught her live on Friday, that interview, these are both, what I call champions and warrior goddesses that are really in this fight dealing with chronic conditions. And what did they both say? Holistic, alternative ways of helping to cope, to heal, prayer, meditation, you're hearing it from them. So I'm going to remind everyone, we have the Power of a Healed Woman virtual summit that is only $57. You get 4 healers. We talk about mind, body, soul, spirit. Talking about womb and vagina care. You had Karen speak about them telling her that she may have to have a double mastectomy and a hysterectomy. No, we have to look at different options for that. This is
That's
all
right.
the stuff we're going to be covering during this online summit, 427, 428. I will post the information in this live and in the comments. But listen, sisters, and especially women of color, we keep hearing that these chronic conditions are, guess, who are they affecting? Women of color mostly. It's a higher incidence of it. Why?
Yeah.
Because of all the things that we spoke about tonight. So
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're just joining, go back to the beginning, watch this. When I say this, sister, she knows her stuff. She's dropping some information. We have to get out there. We have to make people aware. We have to be taking care of ourselves, helping to take care of our families. This is serious. This is not a game.
Mm-hmm.
This is our health. You only get one of these.
That's right.
And I wanted to tell you, Karen, before I forget, you were saying about you need some help with meditation because of all of the ideas that you have and things. That is the divine creator, God, Almighty God, downloading all this information into you because he knows you are ready, you are willing, you are equipped, and you are chosen to be an ambassador and to go out there and change lives. This is why you're here. This is why, yes, you're going through it. But this is why you're here. You know, everything that we do, we're a living testimony, things that we have been through. And we have all been through something. Yes, but it's not in vain. It's not in vain. So just God bless you, sis. Love you for so everything, for who you are, first of all, and for So again, thank you, Karen, for joining us and sharing this wealth of information. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And again, share this video. It may save a life. Everyone have a blessed evening. You're welcome. Peace and blessings.